Welcome back, friends. If you're new to this channel, you can subscribe, share my video, and comment. So in this lesson, you're going to do an introduction to biology. So biology, it is the word that is composed of two words, bio and log. Bio means life, log means study. So biology simply means is the study of living things or organisms. Biology, it is grouped into different branches. These branches of biology, we have botany, we have zoology, we have ecology, we have biochemistry, and we have entomology. So, what is botany? Botany is the study of plants. Zoology is the branch of biology that deals with the study of animals. Then ecology, this is the study of how living organisms interact with each other and non-living organisms. That's ecology. Then biochemistry is the study of chemical reactions in the living organism. Bio means life, just like you have said. Then chemistry, this is reactions. So biochemistry is the study of chemical reactions in a living organism. Then what is the entomology? Entomology is the study of insects. So there are multiple questions, there are potential multiple questions that can come. So in an exam, they can bring which of the following is a branch of biology. Which branch of biology that deals with insects? So you have to know those things. Let's also look at some of the characteristics of living things. Characteristics of living things, there are about 8 of them, but they are summarized in a following mnemonic, which is Mr. Graphic. Mr. Graphic. Mr. Graphic. This word, it simply summarizes all the 8 characteristics of living organisms. We have M for movement. We have R for reproduction. We have G for growth. We have E for excretion. We have F for feeding or nutrition. So feeding and nutrition are used interchangeably. We also have irritability or sensitivity. Irritability, it can also be used interchangeably with sensitivity. So these, the one I'm listing, are the characteristics of living things. Okay, so also these are potential multiple questions. A question can come, which of the following is not an example or a characteristic of living organism. So you have to look for this, and I remained with you telling you what C is. C, just cells. All the living organisms, they have cells. Okay, so now let's just define what each of these are. Okay, so we're going to start with movement. What is movement? Movement is grouped into two categories. We have locomotion and posture. Locomotion and posture. What is locomotion? Locomotion, this is the movement of an organism, the movement of entire organism from one place to another, the way a person walks, an animal. What the type of movement that occurs? Locomotion, where the entire body has to move. Then a posture is just the change in position. It does not include the whole body to move, like a plant, a tree. When there is wind, a branch can shake, can move, leaves can move, but the roots still stationed at the same position. It's just the change in position. It does not include the movement of the entire body. That's the difference between the posture and locomotion. Locomotion is the movement of the entire organism, but for the posture, it's just the change in position. It could be a person being seated or standing, just moving the head or the hand. That's what it means. So another characteristic, just like we said, we have respiration. What is respiration? Respiration, this is energy releasing from food. So there are two types of respiration. There is anaerobic respiration, and aerobic respiration. So anaerobic respiration, this is the type of respiration where oxygen is not used. But aerobic, this is the type of respiration where oxygen is used to release energy. That's the difference. So anaerobic, no oxygen. But for aerobic, there is oxygen. Another branch, another characteristic, we have growth. What is growth? What is involved? So here, whenever you're defining things in biology or in any subject, you have to be taking note keywords. Keywords are the things, even what the markers look for whenever they are marking questions. Whenever they are checking your answers, they look for those keywords. So when we talk of keywords, that is in respiration, it's energy, and also carbohydrates or food stuffs. Then for growth, this is the permanent increase of organism in mass, size, numbers of cells, and complexity of an organism. Complexity of an organism. The permanent increase in mass, size, numbers of cells, and complexity of an organism. So the things that I've listed in a definition of growth are the key words: mass, size, number of cells, and complexity. The increase, a permanent increase. So another characteristic of an organism is reproduction. What is reproduction? Reproduction is the process of producing, or an organism producing their young ones. The process by which an organism produces their offsprings or young ones. That's reproduction. And there are two types of reproduction. We have sexual and asexual. Should be double S here. And asexual. Sexual reproduction, it involves the fusion of male gametes with female gametes to form a fertilized egg, to form a zygote. That's what's sexual. But for asexual, there is no fusion of male gametes and female gametes. What is nutrition? So just like we said, nutrition can be used interchangeably with feeding. It's also another characteristic of living organisms. So these, you can know nutrition or you know feeding. Then if you don't know that feeding can be used interchangeably with nutrition, then a multiple choice comes saying which of the following is an example of, or is a characteristic of living organism, and then they have listed a lot of options, and then there is nutrition there. Then you can say there's no answer. But know that nutrition can be used as interchangeably with feeding. Okay? So there are two types of nutrition. Nutrition, this is the process by which a living organism obtains food. That's nutrition. Or feeding, the process by which a living organism obtains food. So there are two types of nutrition. Two types of nutrition. We have autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. So autotrophic and heterotrophic. So autotrophic nutrition, this is the process by which living organisms make their own food. For example, a plant, it makes its own food through the process of photosynthesis. So the type of nutrition that a plant makes its own food is autotrophic. Then what of heterotrophic? Heterotrophic, this is the process by which an organism obtains its food from other sources. For example, animals, a human being, they don't make their own food to sustain its body, but it gets food from other sources such as plants and other animals. Let's all now go to the other types. We have irritability. This is another characteristic of living organism. Irritability or sensitivity. What are these things? This is the ability of an organism to respond to a stimuli. Okay? So sensitivity and irritability can be used interchangeably. Okay? Interchangeably. Irritability can be used interchangeably. So the ability of an organism to respond to a stimuli. Now there's a word that you need to understand also there. A stimuli. What is a stimuli? A stimuli is a change in the environment which causes a response. A change in an environment. It can be when it is cold, when it is hot, when there's a lot of sunlight. Those are stimuli. So the way an organism responds to those changes, that's sensitivity. For example, when it is cold, what is the response of the human being? Is to put on a jacket. When it is hot, when it is cold, when it is hot, what is it? How is the response? To look for a cool place. So that sensitivity is one of the characteristics of living organism. Then what of excretion? It's also another characteristic of living organism. What is excretion? Excretion, this is the removal of toxic substances from the body. Any substance that can cause a problem to an organism, it has to be removed out of the organism. So this process is called excretion, removing toxic substance, anything that can cause damage to the body. Even something that becomes excess and the body wants to move it, that thing becomes toxic. It can be removed by the process of excretion. So another type is cells. Just like I said earlier, cells, all the living organisms are composed of cells. Cells are the basic functional units of a living organism. Basic functional unit. So as you are defining things, as you are studying, you need to look for keywords. Those keywords are the things that the marker will look at in your answer. Then they will mark you and give you the marks that is allocated to that question. So they are the basic functional units of living organisms. Those are the cells. So an organisms can have unicellular or multicellular. Unicellular, this means that organisms, those are the organisms that have only one cell. Multicellular means multiple cells, a lot of cells. Cells are very small, such that they can't be seen by our naked eyes. So in order to see those cells, we need to use a microscope. A microscope, it can magnify a single cell, and you can be able to see the structure of the cell and the composition of it. So there are two types of microscope that we can use to see the structure of the cell and its components. We have a light microscope and electron microscope. Electron microscope. A light microscope, it shows simple structures such as the nucleus, cytoplasm, cell membrane, cell wall, a vacuole, chloroplast. Those are the structures that can be seen under a light microscope. But when you talk of electron microscope, it is the type of microscope that can be used to show detailed structures or ultrastructures of an organism, of a cell. So, example of those detailed structures that can be seen in a cell, we can have smooth endoplasmic reticulum, okay? Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. We also can have ribosomes, nucleoplasm, which is the fluid part of the nucleus. We can see the nuclear pore. We can see nuclear membrane. We can see the nucleolus. We can see the Golgi bodies, mitochondria, ribosomes. Those can be seen using electron microscope. So now let's just draw a structure of an animal cell, and thereafter we are going to draw the structure of a plant cell. Okay, so we start by drawing a structure of an animal cell. So as I'm drawing the structure of an animal cell, you just have to pay attention to the differences between a plant cell and an animal cell. So the thing that I've drawn here, this is the cell membrane of an animal cell. An animal cell has only a cell membrane. It doesn't have a cell wall. So this is the cell membrane. Then inside we have a nucleus. Okay, this is the nucleus. This is the nucleus. Okay, this is the nucleus. Then we also have the cytoplasm. This is the cytoplasm, the fluid part of the cell. Cytoplasm. Then we have a nucleus. We have the membrane, cell membrane. We have cell membrane. So now, these are the parts that can be seen using a light microscope. They are not detailed apart. So, the group of these three parts, it has got a special name, these three parts. That special name is called protoplasm. So, okay, so protoplasm. Protoplasm is the group of nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. So this is a simple structure of an animal cell. What of a plant cell? Remember I said, as I'm drawing these structures, you need to pay attention to the differences and the similarities between a plant cell and an animal cell. So let's go to a plant cell. So I'm drawing simple structures. Is the simple structure of an animal cell. What of a plant cell? A plant cell, it has got two membranes. An animal cell, I said it has one membrane, which is the cell membrane. But for a plant cell, it has got two membranes. The outer membrane, which is the cell wall. Then the inner membrane, it is the cell membrane. Cell membrane. So these can be seen in a light microscope. A light microscope, it shows simple structures, but an electron microscope, it shows detailed structures. So this is plant cell. Yes, a plant cell. What is the next structure? The nucleus. The nucleus. Nucleus. Then we have a vacuole, which looks like an empty-like structure, which composes cell sap. A cell sap is a solution of salt and sugar dissolved in water. This is the vacuole. Vacuole. Okay. A plant cell, it also have chloroplast. A chloroplast. With like, these are the chloroplasts, which has a green pigment called chlorophyll, which is responsible for trapping light in order for photosynthesis to take place. So this is chloroplast. So this is the simple structure when you use a light microscope. So can you see the differences between an animal cell and a plant cell? An animal cell doesn't have cell wall. An animal cell doesn't have chloroplasts. It doesn't have the permanent large vacuole. It doesn't have. These are the differences. But the cell membrane it has, nucleus it has, and also it has the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. So from here you can see the differences and the similarities. So in an exam, you can be asked to differentiate between a plant cell and an animal cell. So look at the shape. Look at also the membranes. A plant cell has got two membranes, while an animal cell only one membrane. So we are going to talk more what these parts are. Okay? So before we talk about the details, let's now write the detailed structure of a cell. Then we are going to talk about parts. Okay? So from here, we'll just consider one cell. We are going to write a plant cell. Why? Because what the parts that a plant cell has, I mean all the parts that an animal cell has, the plant cell has it. But it's not all the parts that the plant cell has that an animal cell has. So for the detailed structure, I'm going to use a plant cell so that you can also understand for an animal cell. Because all the parts that an animal cell has, the plant cell has it. So this is a detailed one. So the parts that I'm going to write, I'm going to tell you the parts that you should include also in an animal cell. So this is cell wall, cell membrane, just like we did. We have the nucleus here. You can write it at any position, but most of the textbook it puts the nucleus at the center. Okay, so this is cell wall, cell membrane. We have a nucleus. Okay, we have the cytoplasm. We also have something like which looks like this. Have you seen? A network of membranes. So this network of membrane, it can be of two types. It can be something like this and something which can be like this. Now we are going to see the differences. You have something like this, something which can have dots. These are the dots. These are the dots. These are the dots. Dot-like. But they are not dot-like, but they are like in oval shaped. But in most books, textbook, they look like dots. So this and this, they're one and the same. But there's a difference. This one, it has got dots. This one doesn't have dots. So this is smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Then this, the one which has got dots, it has got a rough endoplasmic reticulum. So now, what are these dots? These dots are these. It has got its name. They are not just dots. Its name are ribosomes. Ribosomes. Its names are ribosomes. We also have something that looks like a sausage. It's like this. Then there's something inside here. So whenever you see this structure, it looks like this. Just know that this is a mitochondrion. Mitochondrion or mitochondrion. Mitochondrion. We also, since it's a plant cell, we need to have also something which is bigger than these dots, these dots which are ribosome. Then this we have, it's a chloroplast, a chloroplast. So detailed, this is it. And let's write another one which looks like endoplasmic reticulum, but its shape is different. It's like having this shape, which is Golgi body. It's a Golgi body. This structure is a Golgi body. A Golgi body. Okay, this is the structure of it. So now, let's talk of the function of each of these structures. I'll be just explaining its function. You just have to be writing it somewhere. So we start with a nucleus. A nucleus is like the engine of the cell. It controls all the cell's activities and stores genetic information. The genetic information that the nucleus stores is the DNA. So DNA, it is stored in a nucleus, and to control all the cell activities. It controls. Without the nucleus, a cell can't survive. A nucleus, it has a membrane that bound it. This membrane is called nuclear membrane. And it has also the openings, the pores. The nucleus, it has got the pores. Those pores, it allows substance to enter into the nucleus and come out of the nucleus. Those pores are known nuclear pores. And inside the nucleus, there is a fluid. That fluid is called nucleoplasm. Okay? And there is a dense-like substance in a nucleus. A dense-like substances, which is dark in color. And that substance, it is the one that stores DNA. That's why we say it a nucleus It stores genetic information. So that dense substance that is in the nuclear, it is called nucleolus. Okay? So let's go to the next part, which is cell membrane. A cell membrane, it is made up of lipids and proteins. What is the function of cell membrane? It controls the substance that enters and leaves the cell. A cell membrane, it is a selective or partially permeable membrane. This means that it does not allow all the substances to enter into the cell. It only allows some substances to enter. It chooses, it selects which substances can enter and which one can't enter. For example, when you talk of gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, they close through the membrane because they are very small. But substances like proteins, urea, can't close through because they are big. It uses other special proteins to pass through the cell membrane. Let's talk of the cytoplasm. What is a cytoplasm? A cytoplasm is a fluid part of the cell. This fluid part of the cell, it contains salt, protein, sugar, and also cell organelles. So salt, protein, and sugar are dissolved in it. So this is a fluid part of the cell which contains salt, protein, sugar, and it also includes organelles. Examples of organelles: a nucleus is an example of an organelle. A ribosome is an example of an organelle. Mitochondria is an example of an organelle. Golgi body is an example of an organelle. What of a mitochondria? What is it? Mitochondria, it is also known as powerhouse. Why is it known to be a powerhouse? Because it produces energy. It produces energy for the cell to function. It produces energy to the body. This is where respiration takes place. It is known also to be a powerhouse. Then the ribosome. A ribosome, they are small rod-shaped, but in the structure it can look as if it's dotted. But when you look at high magnification, it is rod-shaped, and this is the part where protein synthesis takes place. So these ribosomes, some can be found freely floating here. These are the ribosomes. Then others can attach to the endoplasmic reticulum, like this. So the ribosome, when it attaches to the endoplasmic reticulum, it makes the endoplasmic reticulum to become rough endoplasmic reticulum. Then endoplasmic reticulum without ribosome, it is a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay? Then what is the function of the same endoplasmic reticulum? So endoplasmic reticulum, just like I said, it is the network of membrane which transports substances within the cytoplasm. It transports substances. It is the transport system. Then Golgi body. A Golgi body, its function is to modify and carry proteins such as enzymes from the site of synthesis to the site of reaction. It is also a transport and also a machine that modifies a protein, that makes the protein to be the way it can be to perform its function. For example, an hormone is one example of a protein that this Golgi body modifies so that it can be an hormone. Okay, that's how it is. What of chloroplast? Chloroplast, it contains a green pigment. This green pigment, it absorbs light from the sunlight. Then that light is used for photosynthesis. So chloroplast is the site for photosynthesis in plants. It's only in plants, because in animals there is no chlorophyll. There is no chloroplast. Then vacuole. What is this vacuole? Vacuole is something that looks like this, an empty-like structure within a cell. This structure, it has a cell sap inside it. There is a cell sap. A cell sap is just the solution of dissolved salt and sugar in water. So this cell sap, depending on how concentrated it is the one that makes the cell to move into and out of the cell. It is the one that makes water to move into and out of the cell. Then, since it has a cell sap, meaning this cell sap is surrounded by a certain membrane. What is the name of that membrane? It's the tonoplast. That's the name of the membrane that surrounds the vacuole. It is the tonoplast. So the concentration of cell sap plays a role in the movement of water in and out of the cell. Then what of a cell wall? A cell wall, this is the outermost boundary of the cell. Okay? Its function is to protect the cell against burst or damage, and it gives the cell its shape. Cell membrane is different from, cell wall is different from the cell membrane. We said cell membrane, it is partially or selective permeable, but for the cell wall, it is fully permeable. This means it allows all the substances to pass. It does not select. So that's the difference. So in the next video, we are going to talk about specialized cells. So please, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, you can subscribe, comment, like, and also share my video. Thank you. In the next video, we are going to talk about cell specialization.